checkered pattern, like a mountain road where much of the scenery is blocked by high laurel bushes, not because they were planted there, but because no one thought to cut them down. I know that her maternal lineage was distinguished. Her mother's mother's father was said to have gone to England, where he dined with King George and contracted smallpox. When he returned home, his family plunged him into an icy stream, which was the curative custom, and he died. Also, her mother was one of the Bird clan's beloved women. When I asked what made her a beloved woman, Great Mam said that it was because she kept track of things. But of Great Mam's own life before she came to us, I know only a little. She rarely spoke of personal things, favoring instead the legendary and the historic, and so what I did discover came from my mother, who exercised over all matters a form of reverse censorship. She spoke loudly and often of events of which she disapproved, and rarely of those that might have been ordinary or redemptive. She told us, for instance, that great-grandfather Murray brought Great Mam from her tribal home in the Hiwassee Valley to live in Kentucky without Christian sanction as his common-law wife. According to Mother, he accomplished all of this on a stolen horse. From that time forward, Great Mam went by the name of Ruth. It was my mother's opinion that great-grandfather Murray was unfit for respectable work. He died after taking up the honest vocation of coal mining, which also killed their 4 sons, all on the same day, in a collapsed shaft. Their daughter perished of fever after producing a single illegitimate boy, who turned out to be my father, John Murray. Great Mam was thus returned to refugee ways, raising her grandson alone in hard circumstances, moving from place to place where she could find the odd bit of work. She was quite remarkably old when she came to us. I know also that her true name was Greenleaf, although there is no earthly record of this. The gravesite is marked Ruth. Mother felt we ought to bury her under her Christian name in the hope that God in his infinite mercy would forget about the heathen marriage and the stolen horses and call her home. It is likely, however, that he might have passed over the headstone altogether in his search for her, since virtually all the information written there is counterfeit. We even had to invent a date and year of birth for her, since these things were unknown. This especially was unthinkable to my brothers and me, but we were children, of course, and believed our own birthdays began and ended the calendar. To look at her, you would not have thought her an Indian. She wore blue and lavender-flowered dresses with hand-tatted collars, and brown lace-up shoes with sturdy high heels, and she smoked a regular pipe. She was tall, with bowed calves and a faintly bent-forward posture, spine straight and elbows out and palms forward, giving the impression that she was at any moment prepared to stoop and lift a burden of great bulk or weight. She spoke with a soft hill accent, and spoke properly. My great-grandfather had been an educated man, more prone in his lifetime to errors of judgment than errors of grammar. Great Mam smoked her pipe mainly in the evenings, and always on the front porch. For a time I believed this was because my mother so vigorously objected to the smell, but Great Mam told me otherwise. A pipe had to be smoked outdoors, she said, where the smoke could return to the beloved old father who gave us tobacco. When I asked her what she meant, she said she meant nothing special at all. It was just the simplest thing, like a bread and butter note you send to an aunt after she has fed you a meal. I often sat with Great Mam in the evenings on our porch swing, which was suspended by 4 thin painted chains that squeaked. The air at night smelled of oil and dust, and faintly of livestock, for the man at the end of our lane kept hogs. Great Mam would strike a match and suck the flame into her pipe, lighting her creased face in brief orange bursts. "The small people are not very bright tonight," she would say, meaning the stars. She held surprising convictions, such as that in the daytime the small people walked among us. I could not begin to picture it. "Do you mean down here in the world, or do you mean right here in Morning Glory?" I asked repeatedly. "Would they walk along with Jack and Nathan and me to school?" She nodded. They would. "But why would they come here?" I asked. "Well, why wouldn't they?" she said. I thought about this for a while, entirely unconvinced. "You don't ever have to be lonesome," she said. "That's one thing you never need be." "But mightn't I step on one of them if it got in my way and I didn't see it?" Great Ma'am said no, they aren't that small. She had particular names for many things, including the months. February she called Hungry Month. She spoke of certain animals as if they were relatives our parents had neglected to tell us about. The cowering white dog that begged at our kitchen door she called the sad little cousin. If she felt like it, on these evenings, she would tell me stories about the animals, their personalities and kindnesses and trickery, and the permanent physical markings they invariably earned by doing something they ought not to have done. "Remember that story," she often commanded at the end, and I would be stunned with guilt because my mind had wandered onto crickets and pencil erasers and Black Beauty. "I might not remember," I told her. "It's too hard." Great Ma'am allowed that I might think I had forgotten. "But you haven't. You'll keep it stored away," she said. "If it's important, your heart remembers." I had known that hearts could break, and sometimes even be attacked, with disastrous result, but I had not heard of hearts remembering. I was 11 years old. I did not trust any of my internal parts with the capacity of memory. When the seasons changed, it never occurred to us to think to ourselves, this will be Great Ma'am's last spring, her last June apples, her last fresh roasting ears from the garden. She was like an old pine whose accumulated years cause one to ponder how long it has stood, not how soon it will fall. Of all of us, I think Papa was the only one who believed she could die. He planned the trip to Tennessee. We children simply thought it was a great lark. This was in June, following a bad spring during which the whole southern spine of the Appalachians had broken out in a rash of wildcat strikes. Papa was back to work at last, no longer home taking up kitchen table space, but still Mother complained of having to make soups of neck bones and cut our school shoes open to bare our too long toes to summer's dust for the whole darn town to see. Papa pointed out that the whole darn town had been on the picket lines and wouldn't pass judgment on the Murray kids if they ran their bare bottoms down Main Street. And what's more, he said it wasn't his fault if John L. Lewis had sold him down the river. My brothers and I thrilled to imagine ourselves racing naked past the post office and the women shopping at Herman Ritchie's market, but we did not laugh out loud. We didn't know exactly who Mr. John L. Lewis was or what river Papa meant, but we knew not to expect much. The last thing we expected was a trip. My brother Jack, because of his nature and superior age, was suspicious from the outset. While Papa explained his plan, Jack made a point of pushing lima beans around his plate in single file to illustrate his boredom. It was 1955. Patty Page and Elvis were on the radio, and high school boys were fighting their mothers over DuckTales. Jack had a year to go before high school, but already the future was plainly evident. He asked where in Tennessee we would be going if we did go. The three of us had not seen the far side of a county line. "The Hiwassee Valley where Great Ma'am was born," Papa said. My brother Nathan grew interested when Jack laid down his fork. Nathan was only 8, but he watched grown-ups. If there were no men around, he watched Jack. "Eat your beans, Jack," Mother said. "I didn't put up these limas last fall so you could torment them." Jack stated, "I'm not eating no beans with guts in them." Mother took a swat at Jack's arm. "Young man, you watch your mouth. That's the insides of a hog, and a hog's a perfectly respectable animal to eat." Nathan was making noises with his throat. I tried not to make any face one way or the other. Great Ma'am told Mother it would have been enough just to have the limas without the meat. "A person can live on green corn and beans, Florence Ann," she said. "There's no shame in vegetables." We knew what would happen next and watched with interest. If I have to go out myself and throw a rock at a